Equifax discovered it was hacked in July. The 96-page report says Equifax failed to modernize its technology.
Hackers exploited a problem that experts say Equifax had ample time to correct. Last week's data breach at Equifax will change the world of credit security the same way 9/11 changed air travel.
That Equifax failed to fix a web server vulnerable to hackers.
Fraud is a huge opportunity for us. It is a massive, growing business for us.
That is correct.
That's correct.
Imagine scrolling through your phone and seeing the headline, Equifax data breach exposes 147 million records. The sheer number is overwhelming, but the real story lies in the personal impact. How did Equifax, one of the biggest credit reporting agencies in the U.S., fail so catastrophically? This wasn't just about lost data. It was about a profound failure in protecting sensitive information. Millions of people's personal identities were put at risk, with long-term consequences still playing out today. This breach wasn't merely a theft of data. It was a massive failure of responsibility. At stake was the personal information of nearly half the U.S. population, data crucial for obtaining loans, renting apartments, and securing jobs. The implications are profound, leading to potential identity theft, financial ruin, and long-term distress for countless individuals. In this video, we'll explore how Equifax became the target of one of the largest data breaches in history. We will discuss what went wrong, the fallout that followed, and the lessons learned from this incident. This story reveals the importance of cybersecurity and the devastating consequences of negligence. Chapter 1. What is Equifax, and why does it matter? Equifax is one of the three major credit reporting agencies in the United States, alongside TransUnion and Experian. These agencies play a crucial role in the financial ecosystem by collecting and maintaining consumer credit information. They gather data from various sources, including banks, lenders, and credit card companies, to create detailed credit reports for individuals. This information is vital for financial institutions when assessing an individual's creditworthiness for loans, mortgages, and credit cards. Equifax plays a critical role in determining financial opportunities for millions of people. When someone applies for a loan or a credit card, lenders depend on Equifax's data to decide whether to approve the application and at what interest rates. For many, a good credit score can mean the difference between securing a home or facing rejection. Equifax specifically stores a wealth of sensitive information, including social security numbers, birth dates, addresses, and comprehensive credit histories. This data significantly influences financial opportunities and overall quality of life, even affecting employment chances, as many employers check credit reports during the hiring process. The reliance on accurate credit reporting means that the information housed within Equifax can have profound implications for individuals' lives. Trust in Equifax is essential because consumers generally assume that such companies implement stringent security measures to protect their sensitive information. However, the catastrophic failure to protect data during the 2017 breach shattered that trust, exposing millions to risks. The breach raised a critical issue. If even the largest credit reporting agency could fall victim to cyber attacks, what does that mean for personal data security across all industries? Compromised information can lead to identity theft, where criminals impersonate victims to open fraudulent accounts and make unauthorized transactions. Victims often face long-term consequences, including damaged credit scores, which can take years to rectify. The fallout from the Equifax breach serves as a wake-up call for both consumers and businesses alike. It emphasizes the importance of understanding how credit reporting agencies operate, what data they hold, and how vulnerable that data can be. Consumers must be vigilant about their personal information and advocate for stronger data protection measures. Companies, on their end, must recognize their responsibility in safeguarding sensitive information and take the necessary steps to implement robust security protocols. In summary, Equifax is a key player in the financial landscape, responsible for holding crucial consumer data that affects millions. The breach exposed the fragility of that trust and highlighted the dire need for improved security practices within credit reporting agencies. This chapter lays the groundwork for understanding the gravity of the breach and its far-reaching effects on individual lives and the broader financial system. Chapter 2. How the breach happened. The Equifax data breach was not just a random act of cybercrime. It was a meticulously executed attack that exposed significant vulnerabilities in the company's cybersecurity practices. In March 2017, a significant vulnerability was identified in Apache Struts, an open-source framework used to create web applications. This flaw allowed unauthorized users to execute commands on affected systems. Recognizing the seriousness of the issue, the Apache Software Foundation promptly released a patch to address the vulnerability. However, Equifax failed to apply this patch to its systems, leaving a critical security hole open for exploitation. This oversight became the entry point for hackers, who took advantage of the unpatched vulnerability to access Equifax's systems. The breach began in May 2017, and the attackers operated undetected for an alarming 76 days. During this time, they systematically extracted sensitive data, exploiting the lack of adequate monitoring and response measures in place at Equifax. This prolonged exposure demonstrated a serious lapse in security protocols and the company's overall commitment to protecting consumer data. The stolen data was extensive and included names, social security numbers, birth dates, addresses, and even credit card details. This kind of information is particularly dangerous because it can lead to identity theft and financial fraud. Moreover, the data acquired during this breach is critical personal information that does not expire. Once compromised, it can be used indefinitely. Unlike passwords that can be changed, social security numbers and other identifying information can remain valid for a lifetime, making victims vulnerable to various forms of fraud for years to come. What's particularly troubling is that Equifax had been warned about the need for improved cybersecurity practices. In the months leading up to the breach, the company had received multiple alerts about potential vulnerabilities in its systems. However, despite these warnings, Equifax failed to take adequate steps to protect its data. This negligence highlights a broader issue within the organization, a failure to prioritize cybersecurity and the protection of sensitive consumer information. Once the breach was discovered in July 2017, Equifax faced backlash for its slow response and lack of transparency. The company took several weeks to announce the breach publicly, leaving millions of consumers unaware that their data had been compromised. By the time the news broke, it was clear that the damage had already been done. In summary, the Equifax breach was a result of a series of missteps that culminated in one of the largest data breaches in history. The failure to apply a critical security patch, coupled with inadequate monitoring and response practices, allowed hackers to exploit vulnerabilities and extract sensitive information undetected for over 2 months. This chapter underscores the importance of proactive cybersecurity measures and the dire consequences of negligence in protecting personal data. Understanding how this breach occurred is crucial for both consumers and companies alike, as it emphasizes the need for vigilance and accountability in today's digital landscape. Chapter 3: What the Hackers Stole and Why It's Devastating. The Equifax data breach exposed a treasure trove of sensitive personal information, creating a perfect storm for identity theft and financial fraud. The sheer scale of the data stolen is staggering and has far-reaching implications for millions of individuals. At the core of the stolen information were names, social security numbers, birth dates, addresses, and credit card details. This type of data is critical because it forms the foundation of an individual's identity. Among the most concerning pieces of information are social security numbers. Once compromised, they cannot be changed, making victims extremely vulnerable. Criminals can use these numbers to take out loans, open new credit accounts, and engage in various forms of financial fraud. The permanence of social security numbers means that victims may face threats to their identity for a lifetime, as thieves can exploit this information at any point in the future. Moreover, the breach also involved the credit card information of over 209,000 individuals. This aspect is particularly alarming because it allows hackers to make immediate financial gains. With access to credit card details, criminals can conduct fraudulent transactions, leaving victims to deal with the aftermath of unauthorized charges and potential damage to their credit scores. The long-term effects of the Equifax breach are just as concerning as the immediate impacts. The personal data stolen can be sold on the dark web, where it often remains for years. Cybercriminals frequently trade and sell this information, allowing new offenders to enter the scene and perpetuate fraud. The darker aspect of the internet facilitates an ongoing market for stolen identities, making it easy for the repercussions of this breach to extend far beyond the initial theft. Victims may not realize the impact of the breach until years later. Fraudulent activities, such as opening new accounts or applying for loans, can take time to surface. Often, victims only discover that their identities have been compromised when they receive collection notices for debts they never incurred or find out that loans have been taken out in their names. This delayed reaction adds to the emotional distress and financial burden faced by victims who must navigate the complex process of reclaiming their identities and restoring their credit. In addition to the financial ramifications, the breach has psychological effects. Victims often experience anxiety and a sense of vulnerability, knowing that their personal information is in the hands of criminals. This feeling can lead to a lack of trust in financial institutions and anxiety about personal safety, impacting day-to-day life. The devastation caused by the Equifax breach serves as a crucial reminder of the importance of robust cybersecurity practices. Protecting sensitive information is not just a matter of compliance for companies. It is a matter of safeguarding the lives of millions. As we examine the broader implications of this breach, it becomes evident that the consequences are not limited to financial losses alone. The impact on individuals and society as a whole underscores the need for greater awareness and action to protect personal data in an increasingly digital world. In summary, the hackers' theft of sensitive data poses severe risks of identity theft and financial fraud, creating long-term vulnerabilities for millions. The permanence of stolen data necessitates ongoing vigilance in personal data protection. Chapter 4. Missed opportunities to stop the breach. The timeline of the Equifax breach reveals critical missed opportunities that allowed the situation to escalate. Equifax discovered the breach in late July 2017, but did not announce it until September 7, 2017. This month-long delay had severe consequences for the company and millions of consumers whose personal information was at risk. Once the breach was identified, hackers continued to exploit the stolen data. The delay in notification meant that consumers remained unaware and unable to take immediate protective measures, such as freezing their credit. Had Equifax acted swiftly to inform the public, individuals could have taken immediate steps to protect themselves, such as using credit monitoring services or placing alerts on their credit reports. Public outrage erupted when the breach was finally announced. Consumers felt betrayed by a company responsible for safeguarding their sensitive information. The realization that Equifax had known about the breach for weeks without informing those affected led to an erosion of trust. Many individuals were left feeling vulnerable and powerless. This situation raised significant ethical questions about corporate responsibility. In the aftermath of the breach, lawmakers and regulators expressed frustration over Equifax's delayed response. The company faced intense scrutiny from Congress and various consumer advocacy groups, demanding answers regarding their cybersecurity practices and communication strategies. Equifax's failure to notify the public quickly was viewed as gross negligence that highlighted the need for stricter regulations governing how companies handle data breaches. The fallout from this breach extended beyond individual consumers. Businesses and institutions that relied on Equifax's credit reporting services also felt the repercussions. Trust in Equifax diminished, leading many to question the reliability of credit reporting agencies as a whole. The breach sparked discussions about the need for more robust data protection measures and the accountability of organizations that hold sensitive personal information. The missed opportunities to stop the Equifax breach had dire consequences for millions. The company's failure to promptly notify the public left consumers vulnerable to identity theft and financial fraud, highlighting the importance of transparency and swift action in addressing cybersecurity threats. Chapter 5. Government investigations and legal fallout. The fallout from the Equifax data breach triggered significant government investigations and legal repercussions, shining a harsh light on the company's practices and the accountability of its executives. Following the breach, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, and Congress launched extensive inquiries into Equifax's operations, focusing on how the company could have allowed such a catastrophic failure to occur. During congressional hearings, lawmakers grilled Equifax executives on their failure to patch the software vulnerability that led to the breach. These hearings revealed serious internal issues, including poor management and disorganized security practices. It became evident that Equifax had not prioritized cybersecurity, leading to a lack of necessary protocols and responses in the face of known risks. Additionally, the hearings raised serious concerns regarding insider trading. Shortly before the breach was publicly announced, several Equifax executives sold substantial amounts of their stock. This timing raised red flags and prompted inquiries into whether these executives had acted on insider knowledge regarding the breach. The perception that executives might have profited from their foreknowledge further fueled public outrage and skepticism about Equifax's corporate governance. In the wake of these revelations, Equifax faced a barrage of class action lawsuits filed by individuals and state attorneys general. Plaintiffs claimed that the company had failed to protect their sensitive information and had not acted in their best interests when responding to the breach. These lawsuits sought compensation for damages related to identity theft, credit monitoring, and the emotional distress experienced by victims. States across the nation joined in filing suits against Equifax, seeking accountability for the breach and the company's handling of sensitive data. The regulatory fallout from the breach was severe, with various agencies imposing fines and penalties on Equifax for its negligence. In July 2019, Equifax reached a settlement with the FTC, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, and 50 U.S. states and territories, agreeing to pay at least $575 million in restitution. This settlement aimed to provide compensation to consumers affected by the breach and fund credit monitoring services for those whose data had been compromised. The financial penalties served as a stark reminder of the repercussions companies face when they fail to protect sensitive consumer information. Beyond the monetary fines, the legal and regulatory scrutiny following the breach prompted significant changes within Equifax. The company vowed to implement stricter security measures and improve its data protection protocols. These efforts were aimed at regaining the trust of consumers and stakeholders while ensuring that such a breach would not occur again. In summary, the Equifax data breach led to extensive investigations and legal repercussions, exposing the company's failures in cybersecurity and corporate governance. Congressional hearings highlighted poor management, while lawsuits and regulatory fines emphasized the serious consequences of the breach. Chapter 6. The $575 million settlement. In the aftermath of the Equifax data breach, a settlement of $575 million was reached to address the extensive damage caused by the exposure of sensitive consumer information. This figure underscores the severity of the breach and its impact on millions of individuals whose personal data was compromised. The settlement allocated funds for several critical purposes, including credit monitoring services, compensation for affected consumers, and regulatory fines. Specifically, the settlement included provisions for providing at least 4 years of free credit monitoring to those impacted by the breach. This service aimed to help individuals keep an eye on their credit reports and detect any fraudulent activity stemming from the breach. In addition to credit monitoring, consumers were eligible for compensation for the losses they incurred as a direct result of the breach. While the settlement was significant, it had limitations. Monetary compensation cannot undo the damage done. Victims faced immediate fears of identity theft and long-term emotional distress. The breach exposed sensitive information that could be misused for years, and no amount of financial restitution could erase that vulnerability. Moreover, personal data stolen during the breach remains out there. Once compromised, sensitive information can circulate indefinitely on the dark web, leaving victims vulnerable to identity theft long after the breach has occurred. The settlement also raised questions about whether enough was being done to prevent future breaches. Critics argued that while the settlement provided some relief, it did not address the underlying issues that allowed the breach to happen. The focus on financial restitution seemed to overshadow the urgent need for improved cybersecurity measures and corporate accountability. In summary, the $575 million settlement represented an attempt to address the fallout from the breach. While it allocated funds for credit monitoring and compensation, it highlighted the need for stronger security measures to protect consumer data in the future. Chapter 7. Long-term impact on victims. The Equifax data breach has had devastating long-term impacts on the millions of individuals whose personal information was compromised. The stolen data has put victims at significant risk of identity theft, opening the door to a host of fraudulent activities that can persist for years. One immediate concern for victims is the potential for criminals to open new accounts and loans using their stolen identities. Hackers can use personal information such as social security numbers and birth dates to apply for credit cards, take out loans, and even file fraudulent tax returns. This type of identity theft not only affects the victim's financial stability, but can also lead to significant emotional distress as they grapple with the implications of these unauthorized actions. Given the heightened risk of identity theft, ongoing financial monitoring becomes essential for victims. Individuals affected by the breach must continuously check their credit reports for signs of fraudulent activity. Regularly reviewing credit reports can help victims identify unauthorized accounts and take action to dispute them before they cause further damage. Additionally, many victims choose to enroll in credit monitoring services to receive alerts about suspicious activities related to their credit, but this vigilance often requires significant time and effort. The emotional toll of the breach is profound. Victims often experience frustration and stress as they attempt to restore their credit scores and clear their names of any fraudulent activities. The process of disputing charges, contacting financial institutions, and navigating the complexities of identity theft recovery can be overwhelming. Many individuals feel a constant sense of anxiety, knowing that their personal information is still vulnerable and that the threat of identity theft looms large. Unfortunately for many victims, there is no clear end in sight, allowing it to circulate long after the initial breach. This reality means that victims may find themselves dealing with the repercussions of identity theft long after the breach occurred. Reports of fraudulent activity can surface even years later, leaving victims to contend with the ongoing challenge of protecting their identities and restoring their creditworthiness. The long-term impact of the Equifax breach highlights the need for enhanced consumer awareness regarding identity theft and data security. Individuals must remain vigilant and proactive about protecting their personal information, even after the immediate crisis has passed. It also underscores the importance of companies, like Equifax, taking their responsibility to safeguard consumer data seriously. Without robust security measures and transparent communication, the cycle of identity theft and financial harm will continue to affect innocent individuals. In summary, the long-term impact on victims of the Equifax data breach is severe, as victims navigate the challenges of restoring their identities and securing their financial futures. The need for effective data protection practices and consumer awareness remains critical. Chapter 8. Reputation damage and Equifax's struggle to recover. The fallout from the Equifax data breach extended far beyond the immediate financial ramifications and legal consequences. It significantly damaged the company's reputation. Once considered a trusted pillar in the financial services industry, Equifax witnessed a steep decline in public trust following the breach. Consumers who had previously relied on the company for credit reporting and monitoring now viewed it with skepticism and concern. The breach exposed serious flaws in Equifax's ability to protect sensitive personal information, leading many to question whether their data was safe in the hands of such a large organization. As public trust plummeted, Equifax also experienced tangible consequences in the form of lost business partnerships. Companies that previously relied on Equifax's services began to reevaluate their relationships, and some even sought alternative providers for credit reporting. This loss of partnerships compounded the challenges Equifax faced in the aftermath of the breach. Additionally, the company's stock price took a significant hit, reflecting investor concerns about the long-term viability of the company. The market reacted negatively to the breach, and the resulting drop in share value indicated a lack of confidence in Equifax's management and future prospects. In response to the backlash, Equifax took several steps aimed at regaining consumer trust and stabilizing its operations. The company began by firing key executives, including its CEO, to demonstrate accountability and a commitment to change. This move was intended to signal to consumers and stakeholders that Equifax was serious about addressing the failures that led to the breach. However, while the dismissals may have been necessary, they did little to restore confidence in the company. Recognizing the urgent need for improved cybersecurity, Equifax adopted stricter security measures in an effort to prevent future breaches. This included investing in enhanced technology, conducting comprehensive security audits, and implementing better training for employees on data protection practices. Despite these efforts, the damage to Equifax's reputation was already done. Trust once lost is incredibly difficult to rebuild, especially in the wake of such a catastrophic failure. Consumers were understandably wary, and many remain skeptical about Equifax's ability to protect their sensitive information moving forward. Moreover, the breach ignited broader discussions about data security across industries, leading to increased scrutiny of other credit reporting agencies and companies that handle sensitive consumer data. Stakeholders began to demand greater transparency, accountability, and robust security measures to ensure that such breaches would not occur again. This environment of heightened awareness meant that Equifax faced not only internal challenges, but also external pressures to demonstrate that it could meet the evolving standards for data security. In summary, The Equifax data breach resulted in significant damage to the company's reputation, with public trust plummeting and business partnerships eroding. The firing of key executives and the adoption of stricter security measures were steps taken to address the fallout, but the trust that was lost proved to be a formidable hurdle. As Equifax struggled to recover, the incident served as a cautionary tale for companies across industries about the critical importance of data protection and the potential consequences of negligence in safeguarding sensitive consumer information. Chapter 9. Lessons learned from the breach. The Equifax data breach served as a significant wake-up call for the cybersecurity industry and businesses across various sectors. One of the most critical lessons from this incident is the urgent need for organizations to prioritize data protection. Companies must understand that they are not immune to cyber threats and that robust cybersecurity measures are essential to safeguard sensitive consumer information. The breach underscored the importance of a proactive approach, where potential vulnerabilities are identified and addressed before they can be exploited by cybercriminals. In the wake of the Equifax breach, stricter regulatory standards were imposed to hold organizations accountable for their data protection practices. Government bodies recognized the need for more rigorous oversight of how companies handle sensitive information, leading to new regulations aimed at enhancing consumer protection. This shift has prompted organizations to reevaluate their security protocols and implement more comprehensive measures to safeguard against potential breaches. The focus on accountability and transparency is essential for restoring public trust in organizations that manage sensitive consumer data. Individuals can also take proactive steps to protect themselves in light of the lessons learned from the Equifax breach. Regularly monitoring credit reports for suspicious activity is one of the most effective ways to catch unauthorized transactions early. Victims of identity theft often first discover the problem when they notice unfamiliar accounts or transactions on their credit reports. By staying vigilant and checking credit reports at least annually, consumers can identify issues before they escalate. Another important measure individuals can take is to freeze their credit. A credit freeze restricts access to credit reports, making it more challenging for identity thieves to open new accounts in a victim's name. Freezing credit is a straightforward process and provides an additional layer of security, allowing individuals to regain control over their financial identities. Furthermore, using identity theft protection services can offer early alerts and monitoring for suspicious activity. These services typically include real-time monitoring of credit reports and alerts about significant changes, allowing consumers to respond quickly if their information is compromised. While no service can guarantee complete protection, they can provide valuable peace of mind and help individuals manage the risks associated with identity theft. Chapter 10. Conclusion. A wake-up call for everyone. The lasting impact of the Equifax data breach continues to affect millions of Americans who still face long-term risks from identity theft. Personal data, once stolen, remains vulnerable to misuse for years. This reality serves as a warning for both consumers and businesses alike. Even trusted companies can fail in their duty to protect sensitive information. For consumers, the breach underscores the importance of being proactive and safeguarding personal data. It's vital to remain informed about potential cybersecurity threats and to recognize that reliance on any single organization for data protection may not be sufficient. The Equifax breach serves as a poignant reminder that proactive measures are essential for safeguarding personal data in today's digital landscape. Consumers must not become complacent. Instead, they should take responsibility for their information and advocate for stronger data protection practices from companies. In closing, it is crucial for individuals and organizations alike to learn from the lessons of the Equifax breach. By understanding the vulnerabilities that can lead to data breaches and taking proactive steps to protect sensitive information, we can create a more secure environment for everyone.